Hey everybody, Happy New Year. It's a whole nother year here on YouTube for the extra. I'm doing that again. That was trash. That was absolutely terrible. Although people like the bad intros from before, so maybe I'll keep it in there. Now, let's get into it. Let's get into this. Let's get into some fun stuff. So, this summer, there are two huge events happening. The first one, which we're going to touch base on later in future videos because I did my research for that, not yet, okay, is the Women's World Cup. So, the Women's World Cup is coming. We're going to touch base on that later. But the other thing that is coming for the men's soccer team fans is the Men's Under-20 World Cup. Okay, and I want to chat a little bit about it so that you guys have an idea what it is, who it is, all those other things. So, on a ground fundamental level, every single country has different ages of clubs, right? So, like the men's national team is actually the senior men's national team. And then underneath that is the U20 team. There's a there's a U17 team. There's like a U15 team. And they go all the way down.
And there's a U23 team for the Olympics.
That's true.
I think that's only for the Olympics.
I believe so, and that one's got weird rules, right? Like you can have like 3 players that aren't under 23 that can like come with you. Or
yeah,
something.
it's something. Yeah,
it's got some weird rules.
Has some weird rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because they want the Olympics to be like more fair, but also more popular.
Right. Yeah, it's the same reason that Cristiano Ronaldo got bought by that Saudi Arabian club, right? Like, we want it to be fair, but also we want to make a lot of money, and if we can't have the big name people here, no one's going to watch. And Kansas City allegedly almost had him. Kansas City was in talks with him, and they would have been the MLS team to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Lionel Messi's probably going to
I can see him not wanting to go to Kansas City.
I could see a lot of people not wanting to go to Kansas City. Maybe not for the team, just never mind.
Messi to Miami has been a talk for a while, so
yeah.
I'm assuming
it's Beckham, right? David Beckham owns that club.
Yeah, he's a part owner. So yes, I'm assuming after season at PSG is when he's planning to move.
Okay, all right. So let's see. I want to get some things in here without causing my video to crash, and I'm sure I'm going to cause my video to crash. So the U20 World Cup. All right. I'll give you guys like a background on a bunch of this stuff. So it's when you think about the U20 World Cup, it's really interesting, and it's interesting for a couple of reasons. It doesn't give a very accurate idea of which countries are up and coming. And the reason that it doesn't is look at our roster from Qatar, right? Look at the average age of players that we had on that. Look at how many players on our roster could have been playing for the U20 team, and instead we're playing for the senior team. And it's not just our countries, a lot of countries that have this.
I mean, if you look at England, you've got Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham both could play on the U20 team.
Could Bukayo Saka? He could, right? Isn't he 19 or something?
I think Saka, yep.
Yep. So all 3 of those guys are not gonna, yeah.
Every country has, at least 2 or 3 players that would play on their U20 team, but are good enough to play their senior team instead.
Right. And so as you approach that 20-year-old threshold, some of the players are in it for development purposes, right? They're going to have breakout seasons. A lot of the players on our team, on the senior team, previously played for our U20 team. They were in clubs in U17. A lot of our players, though, also went from U17 to the senior team.
They skipped the U20.
They skipped that middle gap. So there are good things happening, and it's also kind of like a trap. And as I explain some of these, it will make more sense to you. So if we go back through the winners, right? And I'll go back to, we'll do 91, right? That's where we started this podcast. We'll stay there. So Portugal and Brazil were in the finals with Portugal winning. Brazil and Ghana in the finals with Brazil winning. Argentina, Brazil with Argentina. Argentina, Uruguay with Argentina. Spain, Japan with Spain. Argentina, Ghana with Argentina. So initially, a lot of the same teams and a lot of teams that we see on the senior level, right? Soccer, They have the depth. Soccer has the culture. It's just not really anywhere in enough. And the other thing we should mention about U20 is if it's not in your culture and you don't have the depth, all of your best players are on the senior team, and there's actually nobody left to play on the U20 team. And like, or and you're just like, our senior team through the 90s was like very meh, right? And so we didn't really have the culture, but you guys get what I'm saying. So as we progress into more like recent eras, right? So 2007, Argentina beat the Czech Republic, right? 2-1. Ghana beats Brazil and Egypt in penalties. Brazil and Portugal, okay, still seeing the big name teams. 2015, we start to see some newer teams. So we see Serbia playing Brazil. 2017, England beats Venezuela. Okay, so wow. And then 2019, which is the last time it got played, the Ukraine beat Korea's Republic 3-1. We did not have a 2021 World Cup because of the pandemic, and so the 2023 is in Indonesia. The other thing to note is that this tournament is played every 2 years instead of every 4. The most countries to win this, Argentina has won 6 times, Brazil 5, Portugal twice, and then Germany, Yugoslavia, Spain, Ghana, France, England, and the Ukraine have all won it just one single time. So there's a little bit of background on that, on the tournament, how it works, senior players, not senior players, all of that good stuff. The next thing that comes into play with this, and we're just stay with us, we're starting at the foundation and building up, is player eligibility. So I would say one of the biggest things I've learned researching this U20 thing is this is where each country finally gets a foothold on players, and they have to commit, right? And in a lot of ways, we're enticing players to stay with that country, and it is something I think we need to give Berhalter a lot of credit for, right? We had a lot of dual nationals on our senior team, Serginho Dest, Robinson, Musa, that all had the opportunity to play for their other country, and the United States was able to win them over. And so the U20 spot can get these guys in the program, can get you a member of your country's federation, and get them on track to be part of your senior team. And so as far as, you want to say anything? Sorry, I'm just like running my mouth. So like, I'm going to look this up. You say something.
No, I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. I want to make sure. So this brings us into FIFA's eligibility. Okay. And so the general principle in Article 5.1 states that any person holding a permanent nationality that is not dependent on residence in a certain country is eligible to play for representative teams of the association of that country. And I'm sure that was not, legalistic and confusing at all. Okay. So you're holding nationality that is not dependent on residence. Right? A permanent nationality that is not dependent on residence, meaning you were born there, right? When you are born in a country, you gain permanent residence there, even if you no longer live there, right? So people come to the United States, they get born in the United States. 3 months later, they go back to whatever country they're from. They are still citizens of the United States. They could turn 18 years old and play for the senior national team. The next thing that comes into play is any player who has already participated in a match, either in full or in part, in an official competition of any category or any type of football for one association, may not play an international match for a representative team of another association. Now, there are a lot of semantics with this one, but the big part of it is, if I can get you to play for my country, you are locked into playing for my country, and you will not be able to play for anybody else.
Yeah, and it has to be, from what I understand, it has to be a competitive match for the senior team. So that's things like the Gold Cup, Nations League, obviously the World Cup qualifying. Any of those things lock you into that. And
we had players that played for our U17 team that are now playing for Mexico's senior team.
Yeah, exactly. There are weird exceptions where like you can get, I don't remember what they call it, but like where if you've played like only one game or something like that, you can switch, but it's something you in FIFA 4 and the whole process. Yeah, like you said, and if you can get them into the U20 team, feel like they're enjoying a lot of success, and it's like, oh, you can come up to the senior team, and bam, like you said, you got them locked in.
Right. And so this continues, and I'm going to try to make it not so confusing. So there are different nationalities for countries that have multiple territories. So, like, your nationality of American applies for the United States, American Samoa, Guam, the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Okay? British applies for England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Anguilla, Bermuda, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Gibraltar, Montserrat, Turks, and Caicos Islands. Okay? There's a couple other ones in here, but you get the idea. So that brings us into Article 6, which deals with some of these cases, and it says a player who, under the terms of Article 5, which we previously read, is eligible to represent more than one association on account of his nationality, they may play in an international match for one of these associations only if, in addition to having the relevant nationality, he fulfills at least one of the following conditions. He was born on a territory of the relevant association, and then here is where a lot of our players hit into this, right? His biological mother or biological father was born on the territory of the relevant association. Okay,
Yeah.
Serginho Dest's dad was born in Brooklyn. Timothy Weah could have played for, Libya? Because his dad's like the president there.
Yeah.
Right? Anthony Robinson, right? So a lot of the players, and it's not just our country, but obviously U.S., we're talking about it, or his grandmother or grandfather was born on a territory of the relevant association. He has lived continuously on the territory of the relevant association for at least 2 years. Okay, so what does that mean? That is a condition that allows you to be eligible to play for another association. Okay, so it still implies you haven't picked one yet. Okay, so this does not override your other one, but it does explain why Yunus Musa, who's in England, who's born in England, who's doing all the stuff in England, all of a sudden goes, hey, I can play for the United States because he meets one of those conditions. Serginho Dest, his father was born in Brooklyn. He's eligible. I think he was also born in Brooklyn too, and then he moved to the Netherlands. I can't remember. I should have paid more attention in their weird commercials, but like either way, they were allowed to go. I haven't declared yet. I'm able to declare for this country or this nationality because of this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So then it says, as you can see, a player must be either born in a country or have biological ties to it. And then Article 2.6.2 states that associations sharing a common nationality can make an agreement and do all those other things. So let's get into some new nationalities, right? How do these people switch national teams? So that's Article 7. And in Article 7, it says, players will be eligible to play for a representative team if they've lived continuously for at least 5 years after reaching the age of 18 on a territory. So, only players who have more than one nationality, acquired a new nationality, or are eligible to represent more than one association can change teams. And individuals may do that only once. Okay? So, there's a lot of stuff going in here. I'll post this article in the links if you guys just want to go through it to give you some examples of players who have done this. Kevin Prince Boateng, his original association was Germany. He switched to Ghana. He's a familiar face for soccer fans. In this previous one, Fazou Goulam, his original association was France. He played for Algeria. Jonathan Gonzalez, he was somebody who we were really excited about as American soccer fans. He is actually going to be playing for Mexico. And then Jack Grealish, another one from the Republic of Ireland. He's actually playing for England. So that just gives you a little bit of a breakdown. I know it was a little bit more intense, but as we get into the roster, it's important to understand the significance of it. And most of this nationality struggle comes into play really strong here, because by the time you see a guy make a cap for the senior national team, you can feel confident that I can buy one of these if I really like the guy, right? But you're watching U17
Generally, yeah.
soccer, you watch a U20 scrimmage, you really
Yeah,
can't pull the
they
trigger
might
on it
not
yet.
stay.
Yeah. So, what do you think, Chris? You want to dive into the roster? Should we talk about some of these players? How do you feel before we do that?
Yeah.
How do you feel about, like, when you think about U20 soccer as a coach, like you bring in your coaching experience? What do you like about this U20 thing, and what are you like looking forward to seeing in these players if you were the senior men's head coach?
Um, I think I would probably have some different expectations maybe than those other coaches would. But I'm definitely looking for. I would be looking for some leadership qualities. It's not going to come into your senior team and be a leader, but if there's somebody who steps up and takes charge on the field when they're in that, they're not going to be afraid generally, or maybe I shouldn't say afraid. They're not going to be intimidated by the senior teams. They're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
intimidated by coming up to these larger, much larger profile tournaments. So that's one of the things I would definitely be looking for. Um, the other reality is different positions on the field up differently. Um, you know, you see young strikers with a lot of success like Kylian Mbappe and Erling Haaland, and that's because those positions depend a lot on natural talent, physical ability, and so when you develop early and you have a lot of natural talent, that gets showcased really easily in being a striker or a winger. So those guys will stand out um, in a U20 setting.
That's so true. So
They'll
true.
be way back before they'll already be on the senior team. Um, so that being said, just kind of soccer understanding and maturity on a mental and emotional level to really be able to play those positions well.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the players that we're going to see on the U20 team that could actually feature for the senior team in a couple of years because they're still learning the game, they're still developing. Whereas a lot of the attackers and wingers, like maybe we will see them, and that's have really standout ones. Maybe like we'll talk about them, I'm sure, but like Paxton Aronson stands out. Like if you watch any of our U20 games, you see Paxton Aronson. His name's all over the game. He's very obviously a very good player.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be watching much more closely a lot of the defense and the defensive midfielder positions. Hey, Augie.
I need to just get him a little bandana because he's very intent on sitting and being part of the podcast. He's having a hard time. Mom went to bed, and he just needs some attention and loving, huh? No, and I 100% agree, because, like you said, it's even from a fan perspective, it's so easy to just like be offensive minded and want to watch
Yeah,
goals and especially with where the U.S. is right now, right? We don't have a goal scorer. We don't have a number 9. We don't have any of those things. And there are players like Paxton Aronson who put the ball in the back of the net consistently, and we're going to want to see those things. But we also are really young, and so we need players who have the mentality where they're ready to learn, they're ready to grow, they're ready to be corrected. They don't believe they know everything, right? They want to develop, they want to grow into quality players who. What, you have something to say, Ox? You got something to say? He's just gonna keep licking my face. that they want to make a difference, and they're not afraid to have a coach tell them, like, I think this is where you can be better, and learn learn from the senior team and those guys. So, is that true? Is that true, Pups? All right, you can sit here if you're gonna sit here. I mean, but if you don't know anything about the U20 team, right, just to kind of give you a little bit of a recap on what the last year looked like. So over the course of the last year, we had been working on qualifying, right? And qualifying is exactly the same, right? You qualify out of CONCACAF. And so we got to go through and play some like really strange teams, right? So we had a series where like we played Mexico a bunch, right? This is beforehand. We played like Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, but then we dove into qualifying. And so from about June of 2022 through qualifying, we played St. Kitts and Nevis. We beat them 10-0. We had a draw with Canada, okay? So Canada still got some depth coming up. We beat Cuba 3-0. We beat Nicaragua 5-0. We beat Costa Rica 2-0. We beat Honduras 3-0. We beat the Dominican Republic 6-0. And we beat Peru 3-0.
Yeah.
That was from all through the summer into September. And the last 2 or 3 games, I believe, were all the playoffs. So I want to say Honduras, the Dominican Republic, and Peru were all like the tournament. Like if you're gonna win, and if you win, you go to the whatever. And so you look at our squad, with the exception of the 2-2 draw to Canada, we didn't lose. We didn't drop a single game. And out of there, players that you see on the scorecard a lot are Aronson had 2, 3, 4, 5 goals in the last 4 games that we played. Sullivan had 3 goals, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals in the last 6 games. Gutierrez had a couple goals. Luna had a couple goals. Neal had a goal. There's a guy.
I had 2, yeah.
Yeah, Bassett. I think it's Joel Bassett. He had a ton of goals in previous games. He was somebody who people were saying, you had to watch out for. This isn't going to work out for you, Augie. Like, I don't know what you think you're doing, but like it's not going to go the way that you think it's going to go. You're just stuck behind me in this chair. Maybe you'll like that better. Maybe you'll like sitting back there better. And so if you haven't got a chance to watch them, I mean, you could watch the full highlights on YouTube. Like, you can go see like the entire sets of games. We're very direct. We're very aggressive. The guys move the ball together really well. And we have a lot of talent, right? Paxton Aronson is Brendan Aronson's younger brother. I would not be surprised if they were both playing. I do believe they're both going to be playing for the national team come the 2026 Home World Cup. And so,
yeah, I mean, Paxton will probably not be a starter at that point, but be on the team. He's good enough.
100%. And so if going through the roster, what is Sullivan's first name? Where is he at? Sullivan. Where are you? And of course, you're not on the roster at the moment, and you're not a defender. Most of the players play for local club teams.
What's weird is they just had a camp. Yeah, they just had a camp, and they only brought 16 players to the camp. So there's definitely some that aren't brought in, and I don't know why.
Oh yeah, I see this. Right. I mean,
That's why the roster is small right now.
Yeah, some names that players had been talked about, so like Brian Gutierrez had been talked about. He was somebody that people were saying if we were going to take a bonus slot to give to a player for the previous World Cup, they were somebody we had recommended. Cade Cowell has had a spot, and he has made it up there a couple times. Is there anybody else on here that people might have heard before? I don't think so, at least not off this initial roster. The other guys are like the Paxton Aronsons and them that if people have been like, oh, I recognize this name. Like, this sounds really familiar. Cade Cowell is another one. There's one other guy, too. I can't remember his name. It's tough trying to remember literally everybody's names. But so these are the guys who are going to be, up and playing with McGlynn. That's the other guy I was thinking of. McGlynn. He was somebody who had made his way up in there. Quinn Sullivan, he plays for the Philadelphia Union alongside Paxton Aronson. Tyler Wolf, which has relation to Josh Wolf, playing for Atlanta FC. Jack McGlynn, also playing for the Philadelphia Union. When you scroll through the roster, it's a lot of American players. It's a lot of American clubs. Sorry, it's obviously all American players. It's a lot of American clubs. And some of them even on like the second string teams. So that's kind of why I really wanted to cover this. And Chris and I wanted to talk, and share it with you guys because it's not really up front in the media. This is like weird stuff. It's guys playing for like second string of MLS clubs. It's playing for like the junior roster of like the Chicago Fire. So like they're on the Chicago Fire's like junior team. It's a lot of like hit or miss sort of stuff, but we wanted to like introduce you guys to it, let you know it's coming, and start to get this coverage in for the World Cup. So that, you knew it was rolling around and, you weren't just like, oh, I'm going to try to tune in. Because if you don't know who any of the players are and you don't know what's going on, it's not like it's getting an amazing media hype. And it would be really easy to just kind of turn it on, see a slower paced game and just click it right off.
True. Yeah, we want people to stay excited about the national team. And, obviously as the World Cup goes away, team and some of these names we will see in 26, but hopefully some of them we'll see in later World Cup. We want to be for that.
Mm-hmm. And from an MLS perspective, the MLS is growing, right? And it will grow to be a different league than other Premier Leagues. But something I would personally love to see is I would love to see the MLS be a Premier League and not like an English Premier League, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like a Premier League. So every country has the top level of their league is called a Premier League. And I would love to see the MLS have one of those, right? And I know it does, right? I just mentioned there's Chicago Fire 2 and Philadelphia 2, and I get that. But just to see the MLS go to be like a world-class league of its own where it might not compete with La Liga and the English Premier League and the Bundesliga, but it's better than the Mexican Premier League and it's better than the Turkish League and it's better than the Italian League. Like, it's good enough that
Eredivisie, the Dutch league. Yeah,
yes,
we want it to be able to compete. It's never going to compete with the top 5. The England, Germany, Spain.
Not without a lot of money. We have to throw
France,
a lot of money at it.
We're never going to compete with those. But yes, I believe it could be and should be, right up there with or better than like the Mexican League, the South American leagues, the Dutch League. Those are all. If we talk about Brandon Aronson, he went to Salzburg, which is in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
He moved from the MLS to the Austrian League, and the world as a whole saw that as a step up.
Mm-hmm. And Paxton's going somewhere too. Paxton just got signed. He left the Philadelphia Union. I don't remember. He's going to Frankfurt, maybe. He's playing for Eintracht Frankfurt.
Okay. Well, that's the Bundesliga.
Yes,
or is it the Bundesliga 2?
Isn't Eintracht Frankfurt they were in Tottenham's group, right, for the Champions League?
Yes, they were. Yep.
And I remember this
because they
as
won.
A Spurs fan, Tottenham
they won the Europa League
this year. Absolute trash this year. But that's all right. Chris, any final thoughts?
No. I'm excited to dive into the U20 team a little more. I'm excited to talk about the women's team. And I'm also excited to follow, there were games already in the Premier League. I think a lot of the other leagues will be starting this weekend. So I'm excited to jump back into following the guys on their club teams.
Yep. And as with that being a note, future episodes are going to be covering the January transfer window, right? We had mentioned before the World Cup started, there were a lot of players that we were hoping were going to get out. A lot of players we know made an impact and we're hoping to see go other places. And with that window opening up, our eyes are on the Weston McKennies, the Christian Pulisic's, the Timothy Weahs, like to see, can they get themselves in somewhere, right? We know Paxton's moved from the MLS and has gone somewhere. He moved before this window, right? He had already made that agreement and signing in a different window. So now that we have this new window, what can we see? What players can we see move? Are those U20 guys? Does that affect anything? Are they not U20 guys? Are you excited about something? Are you trying to talk? Are you trying to tell me you agree with this, disagree with this? I don't know. So we'll keep you guys posted on all of those things. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, putting up with me, putting up with my dog. Share, subscribe this video. Remember, you don't have to turn notifications on. Subscribing doesn't mean you got to get notified every time, right? It just means that, hey, when you want to scroll through your YouTube subscriptions, maybe we're in there and maybe a title catches your eye. Whatever you got to do. I'm trying to tell them, Mogs. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. It really means a lot. We're trying to grow the channel. So help us grow the channel. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, whatever we say, we don't say anything. We'll see you guys next time.